Alright, here's the update on the battery relocation. I've got the cables ran all the way up to the front. This battery is not going to stay. This is the original one that came with it, and it's a side post. So it's going to have a Optima red top installed, and these cables will be shortened, and it'll work out. It'll look a lot better. Not really sure if I'm going to go ahead and put that shut off in here or not. I think it's kind of a good idea for, like, if I got it parked and just, shut it off and have a battery tender or something hooked up. There's the trunk and that part. This is where it comes up to the firewall. I ran a new cable to the starter, and I ran a new ground to the frame. I don't know how well you can see that, but it's there. And then I ran another ground from the head to the body. And that's about as far as I got with that part of it. So in here is where the cables come up under the carpet by the trans tunnel, and it comes up to here. Right here under the dash is a temporary fuse panel. I'm going to be going with a Ron Francis wiring kit, but right now there's no fuse panel in this car, so until I get around to doing the wiring kit, I will be installing temporary fuse panel and probably just running fresh wires to whatever needs it, which is pretty much everything. As you can see, I haven't gotten to the steering column harness yet. I've been finding all kinds of loose wires in here that just doesn't seem to go to anything. I've been pulling them out as I go, but yeah, there's one. Just wires hanging out, chilling. There's another one. There's another one. Some of them had power, some of them didn't. Here's another one. So I got a lot of work to do, and it's kind of cramped under there, but I've thought about just grabbing handfuls and yanking them out and just starting over. I might actually take my time, take these gauges off and see what's going on with them. So some of those don't work. Well, the fuel gauge shows 3/4 of a tank when it's empty, which that's probably the sending unit, but oil pressure gauge, I'm not sure if that one works. I don't know if any of them actually work right, but it's getting there. Well, this is where I'm at on the wiring. Got the fuse box wired. Well, I got the power and the ground ran to it. I got the gauges off, and I've got the ignition pulled off there. So I'm going to try to figure out where all these wires are going and probably rewire some of it. Like I said, the gauges weren't working very well, so. And I've got the harness for the steering column. I bought new connectors for that, so I'll be figuring that out after I get all this done. Well, you know the saying, laugh to keep from crying. Yeah, it's way worse than I thought. I did find a fuse panel here, and it's in really bad shape, and there's like wires just hanging off of it. I don't even think anything's actually hooked to it, because nothing makes sense. And then I come over here and I'm pulling wires thinking they were hooked to something, and they're not. So I may just end up gutting all the wiring and starting over. I really didn't want to do that, but it's not looking good. So I'll be back with an update. Well, there's all the wires that were under the dash. It was just a complete mess, so trying to trace everything down was going to be next to impossible. Everything under the dash, good to start fresh. There's the wiring that goes to the back of the car. There's the wiring harness that goes to the front of the car. It's still in place. I'll replace that later. Got some things marked here. Starter solenoid. There's the sending unit for the fuel pump. And the coil wire. So next is just going to be running new wire. It looks overwhelming, but if you do one thing at a time, it's not too bad. Well, here's some sketchy stuff. That's supposed to be the fuse for the light switch, and it's wrapped in aluminum foil. Yep, that's the stuff I'm dealing with. Well, time to mark one off the to-do list. How about the relocate battery to trunk? Got that one done. I believe the next thing I'm going to do is probably install the electric fan and probably work on some of the gauges, rewiring, stuff like that. Thanks for watching.